We're talking actors and directors who put on the shows.
We're talking playwrights and designers who you'll want to know.
From the very first rehearsal to the final curtain call.
We might be off Broadway, but we're talking about it all.
'Cause we're two local gals
With global pals, it's everything, everything, everything theater.
with Benita
And Ellen. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Theater Podcast, the podcast where we talk about
everything theater. Hi there, I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Ellen Cribbs, and I'm very excited to tell you all that this episode is sponsored by Harbinger Theater. If you didn't catch Hurricane Diane, I'm so sorry. Wonderful play. But coming up, starting literally, they have a preview tonight when this airs, is Admissions. And this is very exciting because this play was canceled originally in January due to COVID tests. But they, through a collaboration with the Sand Lake Center for the Arts and Harbinger Theater, they are moving to the Albany Barn to bring us this play. Let me tell you a little bit about Admissions. This is the plot. Sherry Rosen Mason is head of the admissions department at a New England prep school, fighting to diversify the student body. Alongside her husband, the school's headmaster, they've largely succeeded in bringing a stodgy institution into the 21st century. But when their only son sets his sights on an Ivy League university, personal ambition collides with progressive values with convulsive results. A no-holds-barred look at privilege, power, and the perils of hypocrisy. And Admissions runs from March 3rd to March 12th at 7:30 at the Albany Barn. You can get tickets at Eventbrite for $15.
It's going to be fun.
I'm going tonight.
Right, there you go. I just had the great delight of being up at Caffe Lena in the audience. And it was funny. It was one of those things, an old friend, two girlfriends that I grew up with. We're going to be in town. They're going to go to Caffe Lena. Something about Joni Mitchell. My husband said, "What is the show?" I said, "I don't know. I think maybe it's a cover show. We're all going to be together." Well, it was anything but. It was music and theater married together. There's a whole backstory to what went on to the behind the scenes with all the writing of the songs in the Joni Mitchell Blue album. There were 4 performers who tell the story, and then the music is played. It was a wonderful evening, and I was just delighted to see the theater packed. So while everybody, I think, you think of Caffe Lena as a folk coffee house, it's much more. And now that the world is reopening, and right, Ellen, we keep our fingers crossed that it continues to, we've asked Sarah Craig, the executive director at Caffe Lena, to join us and talk about, the theater along with the music that's going on. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Benita. It's good to see you. And Ellen, thank you. We talked a while ago, and this is a good kind of bookend to a nice global pandemic.
Yes, we last spoke in April 2020. So it was right when things blew up and everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to survive is a real testament to the support you have in the community, I suspect.
I certainly didn't think last time that we talked that things would go on for as long as they did. And I don't think that there's any of us who are operating any of these, venues that are somehow climbing back out of the hole, who ever could have thought that we could climb back onto our stages after 2 years of shutdown. It's kind of a miracle. And I think that it is a testament to the communities that we've built and to how much the world needs the performing arts at this time. And I would say that I've kind of lost, when I listened to some snippets of the last podcast back in April of 2020, there was a certain innocence that I think has been lost. And, we have the expression, the show must go on. And I think that we all know now that there is actually a possibility that the show won't go on. And So we're looking at our organization, and I'm sure many organizations are doing this, and looking at, what does it mean to be a performing arts organization in a world where our stages could be closed? And how do you remain relevant to creating art, to providing a space for people to be professionals in the arts, to feeding a community conversation that requires creativity and storytelling at this point. So, what do you do when the show can't go on? And the arts really need to be part of civic engagement, because we didn't just go through a pandemic. We went through a huge social upheaval in the country around Black Lives Matter. And now we're heading into a war. And, the arts can't be a sidebar. The arts can't be just an escape. Although, I think that resting and restoring the spirit is a very important part of what the arts can provide. But the arts need to step up into this role of being a way to understand the human experience together as a community.
Well said.
Yeah.
And that's the role, I think, the arts through the centuries, the role it's played.
Yeah.
For,
I agree with that. And it's an exciting time. It's a time when the work feels important, like really important. I think that we've always loved it and been passionate about it and been committed to it and knew that it had value. But I think that its value is just like screaming at us at this point.
along with the music, Sarah, you got a Playwrights Project that goes on.
We do. So, so one of the things that we try to do as a coffee house, and what is a coffee house? A coffee house is not a Starbucks. It's not even Uncommon Grounds, as wonderful as Uncommon Grounds is, our local coffee house. But a coffee house is a institution that started in the 1600s in Europe, and it was a place for people to perform music and poetry and to have lively discussions fueled by coffee. And so getting people talking to each other and being creative in groups is a big part of what we're focusing on these days. And so there are many different kinds of open mic programs that we do. And one of them, the newest one, is called the Playwrights Jam. And it's an opportunity for people to bring a piece that they're working on, and a group of, a dozen or so people get together in the room. You might have 5 or 7 people who have actually written something that they want to workshop. They bring it, they cast it from the people who are in the room. So they're fellow playwrights and, people who are just interested. They go through it for a few minutes. They get up, they read through the piece, and then there's rapid reactions, go around the room and just give, a couple words of reaction to the piece. And it's really gotten some attention. It seems to be something that's maybe casual enough and open enough that people are willing to step in and give it a shot. And yet there's just an almost automatic community forming around it, because people are coming out of a time when there's been a lot of new work produced. And this is a great way to test it out and see what it sounds like.
Where are these playwrights coming from, Sarah?
I marvel at that every time we do any kind of open mic. So we have open mics for music, for storytelling, for poetry, and now for playwriting. And I am astounded by the creativity of people who are, processing your bank deposit, people who are packing your groceries, people who are waiting on tables, people who are selling you an insurance policy. There all kinds of people come and do this. And it's creative work that some of them are more serious about theater and have really pursued it. And others are just amateurs who have been kind of working in their bedrooms and, working in their home offices and decide to bring it out and see what it sounds like in people's mouths. And there are some fabulous poets and storytellers and guitar players and now playwrights out there doing this stuff, which is just great because, you know, we think about what is it to be a human being, and this kind of creative work is a part of a complete human experience. Like during the last couple of years, many people got back in touch with their creativity who had really lost sight of it. Whether they're writing a journal, whether they're, you know, working on a novel, whether they're picking up that instrument that's been gathering dust in the corner, many people are back in touch with a creative impulse. And I hope that now that the world is opened back up and we're, you know, back in our harried routines, that people find a way to keep some of that in their lives. It's an important balance.
Do you see a lot of repeat playwrights come? Because I know a lot of times these feedback sessions, playwrights will then go and completely, you know, sometimes the entire script goes out the window. They rework it based on feedback. Do you see people coming back with completely redone work?
So we've only done 3 so far, so it's a little bit early for me to tell, but there have been some repeats. Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't know what would happen, you know, if we started this program. Michael Oakes is working with Vivian Nesbitt, and Michael is he is a playwright himself, a director and actor who came up from New York during the pandemic, and he and his wife have now made a home in Saratoga, and he just wanted to connect with a local theater scene, and this was his way of doing that. Vivian is the director of our School of Music program here at the Caffe, but she's also an actress and had parts in film, television, and on stage a lot. And so the two of them are just seeing what they can drum up. And like I said, we've just done 3 of them so far, but we'll keep it going and see if we can grow it.
Sarah, how does somebody say to you, I've got a play and I'd love to join this? You know, they're hearing about it now on the podcast. You know, how do they get involved?
So we're doing it on let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. I think it's the second. Yeah, it's the second Sunday afternoon of every month at Cafe Lena at 3:00. And you can just show up. And you don't need a mask anymore.
Yeah. Wow. You just have to make sure you bring enough copies for everybody who you've cast to read.
Right. You would want to bring like a copy for each character. Okay. And we're gonna, so far the group has been small enough that anybody who brought something has been able to have it read by the group. But if it gets real busy, then probably we're going to limit it to about 7 pieces. That we have 2 hours together, or I think it's an hour and a half, actually. Excuse me. Yes.
Have you done something like this before?
Well, no, not like this. This is the first time I've even heard of something like this. So where this came from was I'm interested in seeing if we can get a little bit of theater going at Cafe Lena again. Now, we can't have, you know, elaborate stage sets or anything like that. But what I really think works well in this space is either just play readings without a stage set, or very simple pieces that just have, you know, like a chair and a side table and somebody's shawl or something like that. And there might be 2 or 3 actors. So, you know, there's a long history of theater at Cafe Lena. It was a wonderful spot for theater from 1960 until about 1990. No, till about 2010, actually, is when it kind of, we couldn't really use our black box theater anymore after that.
And I want to jump in. I think a lot of folks don't realize, besides the performance area that we've all been so familiar with, there was a theater.
There was a theater right over Hattie's restaurant. So, and there was a heavy brown sliding metal door that was at the back of the music space, and nobody really noticed it because it kind of blended in with the bricks. But if you slid back that heavy door, there was a black box theater that seated about 50 people, and it had a dressing room, and it had kind of banked seats that went up either side. And the room that I'm in right now was where the prop storage was for about 50 years. And it was just paint cans and cardboard and like guns, and just like swords, whatever anybody needed. And so
I remember seeing that theater once, and it was almost creepy. It was like, a time machine, you will look into the past.
Lena did a lot of theater in there, but then also there were other companies that came in. Homemade Theater actually got its start in Lena's Black Box Theater. This was their first place. And then Josh Chambers with Fovea Floods, which is a really avant-garde theater company, started here at Caffe Lena, and then they moved down to New York and continued in New York for several years. And then Channel Z Productions, which was actually a youth theater company for teenagers, did a ton of shows here for several years.
So what happened to the black box for that span?
Well, when we got word in 2015 or maybe about 2014, that we really needed to repair our building or lose it, we had to make a plan that would bring handicapped access, room for an elevator, room for handicap accessible bathrooms. And that meant that we needed to take over the entire floor space that had once been performance and office and restrooms and all of that. We needed that for the performance space. And then, so we really needed to take the black box theater and convert it to a kitchen and offices and green room and stuff like that. So bye-bye theater, which is really painful. And I have always said that, so we did this huge $2 million renovation in 2016, completed it right at the start of 2017. And we've been open since then without our theater. I've always felt like this renovation is not going to be 100% done until we have a theater program back at Caffe Lena. And I would really love to have an actual black box theater again. And I have an idea, which I am not going to say on this podcast, of how we can get that done. Because we have just a tiny scrap of land still. And it would be great to be able to have a black box theater again. It just was such a beloved part of what Lena did. And it's such an important part of storytelling. And folk music is just all about the story. And so I feel like it just goes perfectly with a small experimental theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, wow. So listen, but Sarah, when you get the okay, you're going to have to let us know so we can, get the scoop and break the story here.
That sounds good. Benita, with your background, I really think that this would be the spot to do it.
I saw the production. It was really what you did with the story of Judy Collins was wonderful. Excuse me, Joni Mitchell. Because Judy Collins was referenced in there, but
she was, yes.
Joni Mitchell, is that it gave me all kinds of ideas for coming in and saying, gee, hey, Ellen and I have an idea for a reading, can we come in?
I think that that's great. And that I am happy, though, to say that there is a lot of new attention being given to theater in Saratoga right now. And I'm sure that you guys know about that, but Saratoga Arts has renovated their theater space. And so Homemade Theater, I think, recently did a production or two productions there at Saratoga Arts, which for those of you who aren't in the areas, was our public library and then got converted to an art center. And they've done a good job creating a gallery and theater space and some like sound studio spaces downstairs for people to use. Then SPAC has a new black box theater, which is, it's much larger. So what I like is the idea of something that, again, seats like 50 people. That's just tiny. It's a tiny, intimate space. But what I would do now that we didn't have in the old black box theater is really trick it out with great cameras and great lighting so that we can live stream out of there and do multimedia stuff that, you know, well, Josh Chambers figured out ways to do it, but most normal people couldn't have figured that out in the old black box theater.
And in fact, you know, they just, of course, folks may know that Capitol Rep has a new home, and they've got a black box theater there as well.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we can all agree that that just gives artists a space to create that they may not be able to do that kind of work in a traditional, you know, theater setting.
Right.
And it just opens the door to so much else. And then at Caffe Lena, with the rich history now we know of theater, and of course with music, that sets up other opportunities for you folks. So give us a little look at the season that you've got planned and how that's changed now that the world's reopening.
Right. Well, trying to hold together a schedule for the last couple of years has just been a monumental effort, and it's taken tremendous flexibility on the part of agents and artists and venues to just work with each other, be as accommodating as possible, and be as determined and courageous as possible. So right now, my expectation is that our schedule is going to hold together, and everything that I have planned for this spring is actually going to happen. And that will be the case through the summer and fall as well. And what do we have? We have our classic mix of, you know, big nationally touring artists, some big names, and then always pairing that and mixing it in with emerging artists that are brand new to the area. And, you know, it's the Caffe Lena way has always been to honor the tradition, to honor the roots, and then to explore and grow the branches. So roots and branches, and that's been the classic formula that's kept us around for 62 years. So we're not tampering with that. I would say that what is new for us is we're really wanting to be a space for creative community conversations to take place. And so, like I said, we've expanded our open stage programs, our different kinds of open mics that we offer. And this is not a place to, like, you know, get loaded and get up your courage and go out and just belt into the mic into a room of people who aren't listening. That's not at all what we do. What we do is we have a quiet, respectful, all ages performance space with no alcohol on the open mic nights. And you can come in and really have what you're working on be listened to and applauded and supported. And it's a way to connect with a serious community of art creators. And then we're also doing some interesting stuff where, you know, folk music is full of ballads that tell stories about things that have happened. You know, it could be calamitous situations in people's lives, or it could be stories about you know, love or acts of great courage and social justice. And so what we're doing is we're saying, well, you know, we sing about people's lives all the time on stage, but what do these moments of people's lives really look like? And so we have a few different conversation things happening. One of them is bringing in the leaders of different nonprofit organizations that serve the community to talk about what inspires their work, talk about the stories of their work. Like, you know, what is a story of triumph that involves somebody who was homeless, who came into the shelter and is now trained in a new occupation, and really trying to put a human face on it so that it's not like a city hall conversation where it's about, the politics or the bill passing or how we're going to fund the programs. And it's not church where we're just like praying to save people's souls and hope that the world gets better, but it's where we're really saying, like, what is the story of our community? Not just the people who normally get the mic, but the people who usually are never heard. And so we've had some really cool conversations around that, culminating in something that we do, which you might almost think of as a combination of music and theater in a way. It's called True Songs. And what we do is we have people who have really benefited from the services of some social service organization. And it could be a place that builds nature trails. It could be a homeless shelter. It could be the Horse Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation participated. Somebody who has a story to tell about their life really being changed and impacted by one of these organizations gets on stage and tells their personal story. And then a songwriter that they have been working with gets up and performs an original song based on that story. And so you hear the story and you think like, wow, yeah, yep, that would be a challenge. And then the song hits and you just are in tears, because that's the power of art, to break through barriers and to help people to really understand each other. And that's been a magnificent program. And I love doing that kind of stuff. I love just kind of expanding on what's possible in this space.
That takes my breath away just to hear it.
Yeah.
And do they work together before, or is the music created? They have. Okay. I didn't know if it was created in the space. Yeah.
They've usually been working together for a couple of months. And we also provide coaching to the storytellers, because telling a story takes practice. It's hard to take your personal experience that, just kind of was your life and turn it into a story that can be performed in about 10 minutes. So we have a storytelling open mic full of some very talented, very experienced storytellers. We match them up with, the person with the personal experience and help them turn it into a performable story.
It's more than just a tell.
Yeah.
Really, the 360 of it. Wow. Such great stuff, Sarah.
It's like everything is theater.
That note, don't you have a little something to talk about Harbinger Theater, Ellen?
I do. Yes. So as a reminder, as theater is opening up, and some plays unfortunately got canceled, but this one got rescheduled. So check out admissions from Harbinger Theater, opening March 3rd, running through the 12th at the Albany Barn. It's going to be a great time. And I will give you an update on our next episode on what I saw when I go to the preview. That is tonight. So if you want to go to a Pay What You Can preview, head on over to the Albany Bar tonight, everybody. I'll see you there.
That sounds great. Yeah, there's so much going on. Sarah, a wonderful season ahead.
Yeah. So do I have time? I'm seeing a little countdown happening, and I just want to make sure that I don't
a little time.
Go ahead.
Go over. All right, that's great. So yep. Let me see. So where are we right now? Are we in March?
Yes.
Yeah, believe it or not.
So I can tell you that we have one thing that's really changed is that, so for the last couple of years, all of the bands coming over from Europe have had to cancel their tours, and there are little fits and starts where we thought that they would be able to come and then had to postpone again, but it looks like it's really happening. So we have a couple of bands coming over from Scotland. We have a band coming over from Ireland for St. Patrick's Day that are really like deep roots in the Irish countryside. Their name is Teata. And we have a Dutch band coming that's performing a piece that is called the Mauthausen Cycle. And it's was originally planned for the 75th anniversary of the end of the Holocaust. And so that was in 2020. And this is a piece of music that the words are poems by somebody who was in the Mauthausen concentration camp, paired with a a Greek composer, and this is a quartet with a classically trained vocalist, and they're going to come on March 18th. I think it's going to be just absolutely gorgeous. And then on the absolute other end of the spectrum, at the end of that weekend on Sunday, we have Tommy Castro and the Painkillers, which is this awesome blues band from San Francisco that's touring the country for their 30th anniversary. So that's the kind of, diversity that you might see. We have the extremely funny Christine Lavin coming on April 22nd, and she is a storyteller and songwriter. For people who love theater and want to kind of test out Caffe Lena, you cannot go wrong with Christine Lavin. She will leave you in stitches, make you spit coffee, as it were. And
wear a face shield.
Yeah, wear a face shield.
Because masks are no longer going to be required, correct?
So, and then we have, like a classic that some people may have heard of is Tom Paxton, who is a folk singer from the 1960s who still goes out and tours from time to time and has not lost his touch and is just so warm and wonderful. And he's going to be coming in June. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have a brand new project called the Black Opry Review. There's been a lot of concern over the last couple of years and a lot of attention addressed to the fact that the Grand Ole Opry is a very white institution, and there are a lot of wonderful Black country musicians and singer-songwriters who belong on that stage. And the Black Opry Review is a country show that's all Black performers, and they're on their way to the Newport Folk Festival, and they're going to stop here first on June 24th. And theater, we have the Orchard Project is going to be coming, and that's a company from New York that comes up and workshops stuff in Saratoga in the summer, and they're going to be doing a bunch of work in town at the end of June and July, and they're going to be performing some of their shows at Caffe Lena on July 8th and 10th, and probably another date or two as well.
Now, for listeners who aren't local, are you still doing streaming of past performances and or live performances?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So we interestingly have moved off of the public channels, off of Facebook and YouTube, because that if live streaming is going to become a permanent part of what venues do, then you can't keep giving it away for free. We need to monetize that in order to sustain artists and venues. So we're now on a platform called caffelena.tv. And you can watch a show for $5, or you can subscribe and get all of our live streams and a big archive of content for $15 a month.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, it's a bargain. Thank you, Benita. I think so too.
You may not be tipping your wait staff, but you sure as heck better be putting your dishes in the dishwasher or hand washing them yourself at home. Sarah, thanks so much. Such great stuff. I don't know. So much I would never have even imagined.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me talk about it. And thanks for shining a light on theater. The podcast is great. I've listened to several episodes, and it really is great what you're doing.
Well, we thank you.
All right.
And for our listeners, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next week. I'm Ellen Cribbs.
And I'm Benita Zahn. This is Everything Theater. And listen, buy a ticket, go up to Caffe Lena and have a great time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Everything Theater podcast. Special thanks goes out to Alice Grinling for our photography and Justin Friello for composing our amazing theme song. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to share your thoughts or what's going on in your theater community, you can reach out to us on social media or through our email at everythingtheaterpodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, it's everything, everything, everything.